Good morning, everybody. Actually, good afternoon. My name is Stacey, and despite what the paper program says, my name is not Ethan Pierce. I actually work at VivaTech, and what I do normally is I manage the social media, which is where we've got a social media war room in the back dark corner. So I'm really thankful for Carine to having dragged me out of the room to come and see VivaTech for myself. Before we get started and I introduce Carine, can I get a share of hands of is it anybody's first time to VivaTech this year? There's a few people. Okay, well, thanks for coming. We're really glad to have some first-timers with us. So we're here with Carine Magescas, who is the Managing Director and founder of AngelPad. Carine, it was the Accelerator that you started in 2010 with your husband.
Correct.
Carine actually turned down an opportunity to speak on the main stage, our stage one, the big stage. So she's in favor of a more intimate conference. So I'm feeling really grateful that she's speaking with us here today. So through AngelPad, can I also get a share of hands? Has anybody not heard of AngelPad before today? There's a few people. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Okay, so that's why we're here. Well, Carine will explain all about it. So through AngelPad, you've developed a portfolio of 150 companies, more than $1.8 billion raised so far, which you've given me a few stats. Every week it goes up and up, so it's hard to keep fully track of it, which means an average of $12 million per company. Almost 10% of all AngelPad companies are valued at over $100 million. It's ginormous. AngelPad is ranked #1 on some of the top rankings of US accelerators, often ahead of Y Combinator, which is probably more of a household name that I'm sure many of you have heard of as well. Some of the most notable names are Pipedrive, Drone Deploy, Fieldwire, who also have offices here in Paris. There's Mopub, which was acquired by Twitter for $350 million, and also Postmates. $750 million, and also Postmates, who have filed for an IPO who will file for IPO later this year, and which is only one of the third ever startups to have come out of an accelerator that will file for an IPO. It's a huge CV you've got here. You've also got a French accent, which you may not have pick up on yet, but we'll get to the Frenchness a little later on. So Carine, this is your first time to VivaTech. I'd like to talk about AngelPad first. So could you tell me what makes AngelPad so unique?
So what makes AngelPad unique is, and makes us also very successful, is that we actually take a completely different approach to accelerators than any other accelerator. And the main thing is most accelerators rely on a vast network of mentors to accompany companies through their program. And we have only 2 mentors, which are my husband Thomas and myself. So it's just the 2 of us. And it's very, very important. We actually tried in the very early days of AngelPad, we had a group of people with us, and we realized very quickly it works much better with the consistency of always the same mentor. So we know every business intimately. We meet every week with every company in depth. We don't believe in cookie cutter advice. We believe that every company is unique. You cannot give the same advice to everybody. And the consistency of always meeting with us is very important. Often when you deal with several mentors, well, one, it's hard to vet the quality of mentors, to be perfectly honest. You have great ones and poor ones. It's not because you've been a successful entrepreneur that you're a successful mentor or a good mentor. It's a very special sauce that not everybody knows how to do. But more importantly, when a lot of people talk to you about your business, you are very quickly pulled into different directions. So you're going to have very different advice, and how do you manage that? When you start a business, you are at the very beginning, you're fragile, you're more vulnerable, you can go so many directions, and having mentors who are very strong in the way you should go and how to go is really pushing your business forward in a way that we don't think anyone else can do.
Strictly VC, which is, for those that don't know, it's a newsletter about VCs that come straight out of Silicon Valley. Really popular, and they've actually referred to you guys as anti-Y Combinator. Why do you think that is?
I think mostly for what we just talked about, the fact that we have only 2 mentors, and we really AngelPad is Thomas and I, and that's it, and that's all you'll get, and that's plenty, and that works really well. And also it's really the part of we go deep into deconstructing every business. We really push people hard. We push the boundaries. We challenge them. We care. We're there for them. We in a way, I say we act as co-founders. And we don't give the same advice over and over and over, which you will find often in certain accelerators, starting with a Y.
Each year you get, for each batch, each cohort, there's about 2,000 applicants, and you only accept 20, am I right? Which makes an acceptance rate often harder than Harvard University. What do you look for most in the startups that you take on board?
So actually, that's also another thing that makes us very different from other accelerators, is that every single application is seen by Thomas and I. Every single one. We look at them separately. We have our sets of rankings, which is not, so we would never delegate to anyone to decide who is going to be interviewed or not. And the reason is that we are interested in a very wide range of projects. And it's not about a specific project. It's about anything really that can be truly enhanced with the use of technology. Any business that's going to make something with the use of technology either better, faster, more beautiful. And it can be so wide that we would never let anyone review applications, because only us can tell, yes, that's something we're interested in.
You've got a success record that really knocks a lot of your competitors out of the park. But as we saw from the raise of hands, there's a few people that still haven't heard of AngelPad yet. Is that intentional?
We could do a better job at communicating, it's true. But when I see that more and more people that I meet randomly in life have heard about AngelPad, makes me feel like things are starting to change. We are a little bit of a household name in Silicon Valley, actually, a lot bit. We could spend a lot of time communicating, and that's why I almost never speak at conferences, because we focus on our companies. We don't have the time to go to conferences and talk. We can do that all day long, but then we would have no time to spend with our founders. I chose VivaTech because I think it's very positive energy and something it's very special with VivaTech, and I'm happy to be here. But it's also, to be also honest, the fact that our name is not so known is a little bit by design, because we feel that the founders we like, that we want to attract, we like great, smart founders. We want people who do their homework, who do their diligence, and if you want to go through an accelerator and you do a little bit of homework, you'll find us. And people who apply to AngelPad, they know about AngelPad, they know what it is, they know what they're getting into. And about that, if some of you are planning on going through an accelerator, do your homework. It's really, you should only go through one accelerator, and it's really important who you go with.
So you and Thomas work really closely still, which is, I think it's quite remarkable, a couple that has not only made it work in the workspace, but also has kind of gone leaps and bounds to create this really, really successful business. How does it work, working with your husband day and night, nurturing these startups together? It's quite rare, I think, to have a couple that work so well at work.
I think you have to ask others, because for us it's very natural. I guess one thing is that we were working together before we even got romantically involved. We were in the same startup, leading different teams, but we were at a peer level, so with a lot of interactions. I thought Thomas was brilliant. He probably thought good things of me. And we knew each other professionally really well. So I think it's very different from a couple who would start working together, not having had that kind of relationship before. We don't even have to speak to know what the other one think. We often are on the same page. One founder 2 weeks ago told me something interesting. He said that he felt he learned about leadership looking at the interactions between us, because even when we might have different opinions, the way we resolve that, he thought it was super interesting to watch how we resolve it in front of the team. So I don't know, it seems very organic and natural to me.
We've got a question on that from Anonymous. Why did you and your husband, so why did you and Thomas originally decide to found an accelerator?
So we've both been working in tech so I came from France to go to Silicon Valley 20 years ago to work in tech. At some point we started to do some angel investments, and we realized quickly that we had no impact on those companies we were investing in. And sometimes it's a bit frustrating, because you have an opinion, you feel you could help them, and you don't really have an impact. So that's what triggered it, to be more involved, to not just write a check, but be part of the journey of a business.
So you've been in Silicon Valley for 20 years, as you just said. Do you still feel a connection with the French tech scene?
Not too much. Not too much.
Is VivaTech almost like a refresher course to bring you back up to speed?
Yes, that's why it's exciting to be here, because I see, especially, it's been 20 years I left France, but I can see how, I don't know if I would have left France, if I would leave France now. At the time, 20 years ago, it was obvious to go to Silicon Valley when you worked in tech, at least for me. Nowadays, I feel there's a lot of things happening here. There's an energy, a dynamism. I read more and more about founding of French companies when I read Strictly Vixie, for example. We've had a few French teams at AngelPad, and we have more and more French applications. So I think something's happening, yes, on the French team.
Do you think you'd be able to mention any of the fundamental differences between the two tech scenes? That could be kind of the cultural differences between the two places?
Between Silicon Valley and France? Well, Silicon Valley is a bit mythic, right? I'm not sure I can judge well French tech now, but nevertheless, what I find very unique in Silicon Valley and very appealing is the audacity. You tend to think, why not, and not why. You think big. There's a lot of very smart money in Silicon Valley. You'll have investors who are going to push you to think big and to go faster. And it's very straightforward, no BS, sorry for that. I like that.
Yeah, you've spoken about this mention of this notion of time before, that things move just so quickly there. I've been in the French tech scene for a couple of years now, and I feel that, I'm sure the French people in the crowd will agree that things are moving quicker. We might have a little bit of way to go still. But yeah, that's really interesting to make.
I agree. We had a French team in our last cohort, and they arrived with their 2 years business plan, no, even 5 years business plan, and we're like, okay, first, you don't do business plans anymore, and 5 years horizon, it's like a century in startup language, so we were laughing. You have to be flexible, you have to, so many things are going to change in the early beginnings, you need to adapt, you need to have a very developed roadmap plan to 6 months to a year, but a 5-year horizon, it's science fiction.
Any plans to bring AngelPad elsewhere, maybe to Paris, or who knows?
I don't know, Thomas needs to learn French first.
We've got a couple of other questions. Do you support, this is from Yana, do you support founders with just an idea to help them with the starting point of building an implementation?
So, it's an interesting question. We actually intervene at very different stages of startups. We've had startups with just an idea. We actually have had startups even completely changing course throughout AngelPad. We had a startup that is a bit known in the US, at least. It's Drone Deploy, and they are the software for drone. What DJI is for hardware for drones, for example, and they came to us with they were an outdoor network for advertisement, And throughout AngelPad, they became drone deploy. So it was really one idea, and they are doing phenomenally well. So yes, when there is, and also we've had companies that we took a bet on very early on. They had applied, they had just started. It happened many times. But sometimes we also have companies with already offices, employees. So it's not really the stage, it's the idea, the founding team, how passionate you are, how visionary your business is.
Quick question, do you believe in pitch decks? What are your thoughts?
For what?
Do you want me to open this?
No, I need that. Okay, thank you. What do you mean for pitch decks? Yes, of course. To pitch to investors, do you think that?
Sorry? Well, we've got a question here. Do you believe in pitch decks? Do you think they're beneficial, or do you have another approach to...
So I do believe in pitch decks to raise money, but I believe in very, and we're super strong on that. For example, if you email a pitch deck, like don't email a 60 slides deck, okay? You have to email a very concise deck that gives an idea of who you are, so needs to be appealing for the person you're emailing it to, but don't unveil everything. You need to keep some things to discuss. So it should be very high level, 5 slides most, and want to trigger some interest. I think it's a big mistake to systematically cold email someone with a deck, especially if it's, I don't know, 50 megabytes. It happens to me all the time. It's quite annoying. I think you can be more efficient with a super nice blurb in your email.
Yeah, you've got to keep a little bit of a mystery about your startup without just sharing everything in slides. Yes. We've got a question from Law. Do you consider yourself as an impact accelerator? Does it mean something for you, Impact VC? Investing in startups that have tech for good initiatives behind them, or could be for sustainability. Is that something that AngelPad looks for?
That's something we are more and more interested in.
Because you feel a responsibility, or?
Yes, of course. Well, yes, we have certain values. So we haven't found necessarily the very, when you think of tech for good, we are absolutely interested in that, in something I would like to invest more and more in. We're looking for the right businesses. I can answer with the negative answer in a way. We don't do, for example, I believe strongly, I don't want to promote addiction, businesses that create addictions. So we never do gaming, we don't do... There's a huge trend in Silicon Valley right now to found a marijuana-based business. We'll never do that. Maybe wine, I don't know, even though it's addictive. So yes, we're very, we are very, we have a company we just invested in that does, that promotes artisan-made locally items. So yes, that's something we're very interested in.
That's it from us. Thank you so much for being here with us, and hope you all have a wonderful VivaTech. Thank you, Carine.
Merci.